Welcome back, Weekend Warriors. The Weekendology Podcast is back yet again with another episode. We're the only podcast with the hottest takes, the best talking points, and the stories to fuel your weekend conversations. Will Deichley back again alongside my co-host, Aaron Berg. Aaron, what's up today?
Hey, I am back. We are keeping the college theme rolling.
Yeah, we are. We're continuing the conversation, or kind of sparking off of a different area from last week's one. We talked about the NCAA and what the NCAA is doing to support mental health. We're happy to have Pat Rusnak back on the show. We're going to be talking about kind of the education system within college itself, really the folly of the American collegiate education system and what we would do to kind of make it a little bit better, and kind of our hot takes on that. So, Pat, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm really good. How are you guys doing today?
Pretty good. We're back at MZ Studio recording another episode, so we're very happy.
Still big time.
Yeah, still big time. We're happy to have our second episode going now. So again, this is a really kind of hot topic for us because, one, we've griped quite a bit within the college education system. You know, we're by no means, have worked for an education system or within the college area before. We speak very broadly with it. So there's really our own experiences to go off of, and some of the conversations we've had with other college students. But really what we want to touch upon is how we kind of have seen the college education system and the 4-year standard degree kind of fall by the wayside and not really be much as an effective way to educate or to kind of have students go through the whole thing. And really, the 4-year standard degree is just, you get in for 4 years, you choose a major, you really get out. But there's a lot of different issues and stuff that we've seen that don't really kind of contribute to the overall success of a student. So we're gonna hop right in. So, Pat, tell us a little bit about what your education experience was, and where you started off.
Yeah, for sure. So I attended University of Wisconsin River Falls, a D3 college over in Wisconsin, about a half hour, 45 minutes here from the cities of Minneapolis, St. Paul. So going into my freshman year, I was kind of unsure about really where to go with my major. I had some decent skills in math, and but I didn't really have a certain degree I was really, really pushing for, something that really got at me, and it's something I really want to pursue. So I ended up actually just going into business as kind of like a flip of a coin. I knew it was kind of a general degree, and it's a degree that hopefully would give me some decent jobs in the cities here, and something I can hopefully utilize. But really, I was going into it almost blind. So
wow.
So you just chose you I guess, and I think a lot of people do this. Will was a business major too. I think I'm the only one that wasn't on this episode, but you just picked one because you thought, well, I can make the most money and it opens me up for the most opportunities, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's kind of the basis of it.
Yeah. It's interesting that you said you was kind of on a flip of a coin, because I was a criminal justice major my first freshman semester. And then I realized, okay, this really...
Your first freshman semester? Did you do two?
I did do 2 freshman semesters, so you do. That's usually semester. What happens in your first year of college.
I've been out of college too long.
It's been a long time, right?
I was ready to make fun of you, and I was like, oh, shoot, you got it right.
Turn that one back around for you, Aaron. But no, I was a criminal justice major my first semester, and I found that it really wasn't kind of what I wanted to do, even though it was still interesting for me. They were offering the sports business program, and business was always something I wanted to do, but a lot of other students kind of go through university in their first 1 to 2 years without even declaring a set major. So there's a huge discrepancy on time spent at college versus actually studying or actually progressing within their level of study. So I think that's what we want to talk about. There's so many different things that we're gonna not gripe about, but I guess.
This is a griping episode.
This is going to be a griping episode.
Yeah.
Everyone's forewarned.
Yeah. There's we have some episodes where we just say we want to change certain things, and then we have episodes where we just all complain. So get ready, strap yourselves in. This is a complaining episode.
But I think it's interesting when you talk to a lot of different college students, and when you really go through the system itself, that a lot of these students, they take a year or two to figure out what they want to do. Mm-hmm. And they spend so much time not really focusing on their level of their study or what their specified, major is. And that's time wasted. And colleges don't care how much time you spend at a university. They're going to get paid regardless. So whether it's 4 years or 5 or 6 or 7 or however many years it is, you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. So the real thing that a lot of people, debate is college worth it? Like, is it going to be a profitable investment, for 4 or 5 years?
Right. And I think from my experience too, I wasn't a business major, but I went in thinking I knew what I wanted to do. So I knew I wanted to work in sports in some capacity. And I had the typical college kid answer, well, because I like sports. I like watching sports. So that's why I want to work in it. And then I thought advertising was the way to go. So I became a communications major because Will and I both went to St. Louis University. So at SLU, under the comm umbrella, there is advertising. Didn't know anything about it. I thought it was like Mad Men. How you sit there and you look at the storyboard, and it was hilarious thinking back. And this wasn't too long ago. I mean, this was 9-10 years ago. Not, this wasn't.
God, that does sound so long ago.
It sounds like a long time, but for me to be thinking like that is just funny to think about now. It's like, wow, you idiot! How did you think that was what it was? But it's incredible to me because I've seen this so with myself and with my friends, and just now knowing kids who are in school currently and hearing them talk. You in high school, you and Pat, we kind of alluded before with student athletes, and this I think goes to anybody. Everyone kind of thinks they have the answers because you're 18, you're a legal adult. You can do more things than you couldn't before. So it's like you feel like you have this power and this knowledge, and you feel like you got it.
You're ready to take on the world.
Yeah, and they kind of, it's good because they throw you out there, and I think it is good for people to go out and just kind of make your mistakes and figure it out on your own. But that's the thing that's tough is you go to a university and you're like, all right, choose your major. What are you going to do for the rest of your life? Or get on this track to think, okay, I know what I want to do. And for me, in my case, I started taking these ad classes, and I'm like, no, this isn't for me. Like,
right.
I don't.
It's a lot of trial by fire.
Right. And then I had to pick another major, and luckily I didn't have to switch majors. I could stay under the same umbrella, and I went the PR route, which I'm not doing as a job. So it's just interesting how they're kind of like, okay, figure it out on your own. And you can go your whole time at college and not truly know, okay, where is this career going to lead me, and what do these classes mean? Like, it's hard to see that application of taking what you learn in the classroom and putting it into the job, the working world, because you just don't know. And there's really no way you can know until you start the internship process and even just your first day on a real big boy job.
Yeah, I agree. And nobody knows what they want to do when they're 18 years old. I had no idea. I still don't even know what I want to do half the time. I
don't either, man.
Podcasting.
Yeah, podcasting. This is what I want to do today or something. But nobody knows what they want to do. And when you're talking about students spending or parents spending, hundreds of thousands of dollars on a university, when half the time there's no real kind of progression towards that end goal. Very rarely do you find somebody that says, oh, I'm going to be a doctor. Or they know it from 5-6 years old. I'm going to be a lawyer or a policeman or whatever it is.
Especially those jobs that, I think like my grandpa, for example, was a policeman. He was a policeman for around 30 years, made it to the chief of police in Bloomington, Minnesota.
Nice.
He always says, from when I was 4 years old, I wanted to be a cop. That's all I wanted to do. And he just worked towards that goal and didn't have to,
incredible.
Different era. He didn't have to go to school and just went into it and worked his way up the ladder. Yeah. But nowadays, first of all, you can't do that. You have to go to school. Even matter of fact, for a police officer, even you have to have, I think it's an associate's degree. You have to have some school. You can't just go out and be a cop. Yeah. And also just the way jobs are structured, it's so hard nowadays to climb that quote unquote corporate ladder.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, there's a lot more specified jobs and jobs that maybe weren't around even a couple years ago. The job market, as a good thing, it's changing and more jobs are being developed because there's more technology and there's just more industries in general. But there's these jobs that at 5 years old, 10 years old, heck, even 15 years old, you're not going to know what that is. You're not going to know until you actually see it. And I think that's the key is we need to be exposing I say college kids, but even earlier than that, I think it starts in high school, really thinking, and showing them, hey, this is a possible career. This is a possible road you can go down on, and then let them make those mistakes and kind of change what they want to do in high school. So when we get to college and we get into money spending time, it's all right. You have a better idea of what you want to do.
Absolutely. I'm all for generalized classes in high school. I think it's great to get a good general overview of basic topics in high school, but especially those last couple of years of high school, there's no reason why there shouldn't be more classes towards, where are your skills? Kind of what do you want to do in college and moving forward in your career? There is really little offered for us, and I feel like that has kind of played in my whole being so uneasy about going into college and choosing my major is I didn't really know what was out there and what was best for me, going into a blind.
And how would you?
Yeah, there's no possible way you could know that until you go through it, obviously. But when you're going into an accredited university, a structure that they're supposed to give you avenues to go, okay, this is kind of the path that you should expect when choosing this major. A lot of the times when I went through, I chose marketing and sports business as my majors. Nobody really told me, okay, this is the annual growth that you can expect to have.
Yeah.
Or like, what are your earnings potential? Or what kind of career path, types of positions are within each of these? They're just like, oh, marketing.
Would you have worked in sports if they showed you that? Because I honestly, it's funny when I went into that, because Will and I both worked in pro sports and major league sports. And it's so funny because I would tell like adults, when I was in college, I'd tell people that and they were like, oh, have fun making $20,000 a year. I'm like, what? Oh, whatever. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. You didn't work in it. And then, they pay you.
Yeah. And you can't expect an 18-year-old kid to pick the major and then research what it is. Like they're just still learning about what the concept is.
Well, and what the concept of money and a salary is too. I mean, you don't really understand how much you need to get by and how much you need to be, comfortable and that sort of thing. You're learning it all at once. So I think that's another thing that's tough is you're saying, and I've seen this a lot, especially at SLU. SLU's big medical school, huge nursing school. A lot of people will go into nursing because, it makes money. It's just, I heard that a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And it really doesn't in the scheme of things. Nurses are, in my opinion, really underpaid. But it's funny because you'll see that so much and they'll choose it. They either choose it because they want to quote unquote help people, which good, but that's very general. There's a lot of jobs that help people. Or I want to make money. And I just think that's something there the universities need to do a better job. And counselors especially, they're on the front lines. They need to be straight with these kids and say, hey, this is pretty much on average what you're going to make. This is what you're going to do on a day-to-day basis. And I feel like they hide that from them and they just say, oh, that's a good career. Like, go do that, but they don't tell them the bad parts.
Right.
And I think they might need to try to scare kids off a little bit just to weed out, okay, can you handle this when you get out? Are you doing something you will be able to handle?
And I don't think the problem is with students or people going into college. Like the acceptance rate is usually pretty high for a lot of these universities as opposed to like Yale
especially like the
Harvard
state schools.
Yeah, exactly. So the issue isn't in accepting the kids, it's keeping them enrolled. And I read somewhere there's a 50% drop rate at 4 universities, but the real issue is that there's an 80% drop rate after the initial enrollment. So these kids are getting in, but they're not staying within the 4-year program. They find that it's okay, school isn't for them, or it's too expensive. They can't keep up with the tuition and the book costs and lodging and all that. Or they find out that they're wasting their time in studying different topics that they have no interest, or it's not presented in a way where it's appealing and informative enough to capture their interest. And most of the time, students just get in. You go to a university to get a job, get a good job, make lots of money, and hopefully start a family or do whatever you want with your money.
Yeah, you're just trying to play by the rules and go in that order because this is the order that will bring me success.
Yeah. And a lot of the issues,
so they think,
with the people who are like, I just want to make money. They go into a field they don't like, finance, or
they might even go to a school they don't like. I mean, I think you see kids even getting into Ivy League schools where they think, oh, well, alumni connections, and they hear all these buzzwords and they think, oh, well, or notoriety, I'll throw that on my resume, and they'll see an Ivy League school or a Stanford or a Duke or something like that, and they'll know. I mean, part of the reason, a smaller part, but part of the reason I went to St. Louis University was I knew it had a little more prestige than just a general River Falls, just a general school, you know, like a state school. So I figured, I'll get that on my resume and impress people. And sure, I mean, it can happen. You know, I'll be out of the doctor's office and they'll mention it, and it's a conversation starter. But I really don't think I've gotten a job because they saw SLU. And I think that's even the case with even an Ivy League school. I think nowadays so many kids are going to school, and so many kids, like you said, Will, they're getting in. I mean, it's becoming like, okay, great. Well, what else did you do? And what skills do you have?
Right.
And it's becoming, but people still have that outdated mentality of, I got to get a good school and that sort of thing. But they're not taking advantage of, you know, the alumni connections. Yeah. They go into the school because of alumni connections, but they're not taught how to network. They're not taught how to do those other intangibles. And so it's like, well, does it really matter what school you went to then at that point?
Yeah, I agree. And I think some schools obviously have a bigger alumni network.
Well, sure.
So it does help in getting a job. A lot of the times you hear...
You have to take advantage of it.
Yeah, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So if you do have a good alumni network and you do properly network throughout your time there, then it's going to be beneficial for you. But if you're an 18-year-old kid floundering around like, I don't know what to do, you kind of eventually find your path. But a lot of the times there's students who go unnoticed and they don't take advantage of the resources there. They don't take advantage of the network. And then they're just based on, okay, I have to get good grades to get this. And they know that if I don't get a good first job, I'm not going to get a good fifth job. And if I don't have good jobs in between there, it's not enough experience and I can't progress my career going forward. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of the times the universities don't do a good job of helping these students get these jobs post-grad.
Right. Yeah, Pat, so you went to a different school than Will and I at UWRF there.
Yeah.
What was that like with preparing you for, I guess, life out of college?
You know, they did okay. I mean, they offered career services and different, different resources to help look for those jobs. But really, I remember looking back to my senior year, and I was looking at a bunch of jobs that I was even applying to jobs that I didn't really know what they did and what my responsibilities were going to be. It's sad to say, but
didn't you apply as a car salesman?
I applied to hundreds of jobs, car salesmen and restaurant jobs and project manager jobs, account manager jobs, finance jobs, marketing.
So you were just guessing. You were just trying to get a job and just that's it.
I've been guessing since going into college, what my major is going to be, and I was guessing really after college what my career is going to be. It's very, looking back at it now, I can't believe I'm still on my feet, but
that's. Well, we're happy that you're here, Pat.
You're more than just on your feet.
Yeah, supporting me here.
Isn't that terrible though? How old are you, Pat? Like 26, 27?
27 years old.
Okay, yeah. So you're 27 years old. You're still guessing as to kind of what to do in life or where to go or all that kind of stuff. So how awesome would it have been if a lot of these universities, they give you these life classes. Mm-hmm. They teach you a lot of these things based off of, okay, this is what you can expect within life itself. A lot of the times there's a lot of universities who, I think the education system itself, tests, papers, exams that are worth 30, 40, 50% of your grade, where the retention rate is so low. Because how many times have you been in college and you're like, oh, I didn't study for this 7th exam for finals because I was studying for all the other 6. This is worth 50% of my grade. If I fail this class, I have to go back and retake this class, which is basically another semester, which puts me behind financially, and then it just snowballs. So I don't think you really do a good job of teaching students when you're just focusing on memorization or tests or kind of along those lines.
Right. And the classes too. I mean, I was a communication major. So then they were like, well, you have to take 3 Spanish classes. Why? Because I'm literally a communication major. It was almost like the school didn't know what my major was.
Right.
The stuff they were throwing at me. And I had a lot of filler classes too. I mean, I had a ton of credits because they were like, Will and I went to a Jesuit university. So it is different because they want you to learn pretty much everything, which is fine. And I think there's a benefit to that. However, I feel like I had more Spanish classes and philosophy classes and theology classes at SLU than I did actual applicable, hey, this is a class you will use in your job. And granted, I get, you might do a major and then change your mind and say, nah, I want to do this job instead. I understand that's a possibility, But I got out of college and I was a public relations major. I did not think I could go and get a PR job and get rolling right off the bat based on my education. I felt I had a good enough education, I guess, that was well-rounded, and I have enough education where if I'm at a party and someone brings up some historical fact, this is how crazy this is. If someone's talking about like the Roman Empire, I at least know what they're talking about. But come on, I mean, I didn't pay, or my parents didn't pay. In my case, a lot of cases, students pay though, and struggle to pay. But my parents didn't pay that so I could go do that. I mean, they paid for me to get a good job, and I really had a tough time getting into the working world and kind of had to relearn and had to kind of train myself in that way. So,
yeah.
Same here. And
I think back to,
go ahead, Pat.
I'm sorry, Will. Yeah, I was thinking, going back to, some of the content we learned in our classes all the way through college. I don't know if I can apply really any of that today to my current job. Everything like Aaron mentioned, you have to learn for yourself, and you learn day to day your career. And I don't know if any of those classes really helped me in my day to day career, and even outside of my career. My daily living. So really sad. But
yeah, it is sad because like when you're an impressionable kid, you want to be taught all these great things and you're eager to learn, and being well-rounded is obviously a very important part of life, and being a good person and everything. You want to know a little bit about philosophy, a little bit about religion, a little bit about ethics, and then math, science, all that kind of stuff. But when there's times where you're taking 3 Spanish courses for a communications major, when you really don't need that many level, you could focus on more of a PR work.
I wasn't an international communications major. So I think if you're going that route, then that's great. But I think, why wasn't, and obviously I had, classes that were specified for public relations, but I just think throwing that amount in there, and I think this isn't just my case, I think it happened like you said, Pat. I mean, they throw these classes in there almost just to throw them in there, just so you have the amount of credits to graduate.
Just so it makes it look like you're doing something, or the teachers, there's enough of people or students in the classrooms to fill it actually, and have to give the teacher something to do. And a lot of the times, there was a lot of different courses in the business class that I took where it was not necessary. Like I wish it would have been more hyper focused on, okay, this is what you can expect from sports marketing. This is what you can expect from just business in general, or kind of along those lines. I mean.
Well, did they for you, Will, did they teach you how to sell? Did they teach you any sales principles?
No. So,
I mean, that's incredible.
A lot of the time.
Think about that. If you're a business major, you're going to go into sales, like straight sales, or you're going to go into something where you're going to need sales skills. How do you miss that? But you took calculus.
I took calculus. I'm glad that I don't remember how to do that, and I was able to learn skills that are applicable to my real everyday life. But that's the issue, though, is that there's all of these things that they're not focusing on, and they're focusing on the wrong content matters, and really it's time being wasted. And when you're not focusing on that. And especially, I can't tell you how many times where I learned more from a group project, or I learned more from kind of like a case study or something we did with collaborative efforts, as opposed to memorizing for a test or
something more of a real life situation.
Because like in the real world at your job, you're not going to be graded upon your ability to pass a test. Mm-hmm. You're going to be graded upon your ability to interact with others, to collaborate.
It's rare you're going to have to just like cram in your head a bunch of information and then regurgitate it the next day.
Maybe for like an onboarding process, but that's pretty much it. Like literally the most 2 important skills that you're going to have in your job are how can you communicate well with others, and can you effectively manage your time. And none of that was specifically touched upon, maybe more of an intangible aspect in college, but never taught the procedures of how to do this, like how to properly interact with others, how to properly manage your time and multitask. And that's a huge, I think, gap in that education system.
And I think you can make the argument that people, I'm sure, will say, well, you can figure that out outside of class because that's the situation you're putting yourself in. You're in college, you're around people, you're so you are interacting with others, and time management, you have to manage all those classes and athletics and clubs and whatever. So you get those, but I mean, maybe not. I think if you go to a commuter school, or a school where most of the students go to classes and they go live back at home. I mean, they're not getting that. And I think, why don't they have just one class that teaches you those things, or at least shows you, hey, this is what the working world is going to be.
Right.
I mean, they essentially throw people out there and you have no clue as to, other than maybe if you have a good internship, they'll teach you that. Otherwise, they'll throw you out there and you're just kind of just shocked. You're like, oh, this is what it's like. This is what I learned in my class. This isn't how, because they're not putting you in that situation, which is crazy. You're paying for that. I mean,
yeah.
Why should you have to do a free internship to go learn that? Whereas isn't the point, to me, the point of going to a university especially is, it's not just to get a bunch of knowledge. That's high school to me. You're going to a university to learn how to go to the next step, which is your job, and to prepare for that. And that's why you have a major. Otherwise, why are we choosing majors? Why aren't we all just general studies and just learn that stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it takes it back to the question of, is college a profitable investment? Because let's just say, for instance, you spend about $100,000 on 4 years for university. Mm-hmm. Average, I guess, salary for an entry-level job, depending on your field, is maybe 30, 35, 40,000.
Yeah, well, what was your first salary?
25,000. So
me too.
I was lucky enough to not have any loans, but let's just say, you do have loans and you expect to have a return on investment for that $100K within the first 4 years. Well, if you're making $25,000, that's before taxes. That's before the incredible amount of interest that you pay on your loans. That's also not including living expenses or food or anything else. So you're basically not even breaking even within 4 years. You go to a different job. Maybe you make a little bit of money. You're looking at maybe 8 to 10, 12 years before you even make that $100,000 back in profit from a business sense. So I don't know. I'm not advocating one or for the other. I'm just opening up the conversation of is college even worth it at that point? I don't know, because there's so many other different types of avenues of education. You have the internet, YouTube. I have learned so much from YouTube just from doing this podcast.
YouTube University?
You could make a YouTube university where you can collaborate everybody on YouTube, have a subject, and just put all the videos in there, and it's unlimited amounts of education for free. Yeah. Internet, Google, you could learn everything that you want to learn.
I had a classmate of mine in high school one time, which is funny. This was 2008, 2009. And this could be applied to college too, but he raised his hand. He said, "Hey, why are we learning this? Because I could just go look this up on YouTube or Wikipedia." And he had a good point. I was like, "Well, yeah, actually, that's
a good point.
Untrue."
Yeah, it's not wrong. So,
but yeah, no. To answer your question, well, I mean, I think it's a deeper answer. You know, I know we complained about the bad side of college, but I think it's worth it. If I have kids, I'll be sending them to a university, because I think if you don't go to college at all, right there, it's just how the world is, and it just is what it is. If you don't go, you are limiting yourself to a certain salary and B, certain jobs. And I know you can make the argument on, hey, you can go be an entrepreneur now. You can go be a streamer, or you can have your own business of whatever you want and just go sell it, or you could be a podcaster. You could do anything like that. However, and I heard Gary Vee say this.
Oh, the illustrious Gary Vee.
Yeah, right? I'm not a fan of him, but he had a great point. The way everything's going nowadays, all these kids are looking at that and saying, oh, college is outdated. We don't need it. I could just go do this and look at all these streamers and YouTubers and bloggers and whoever, just all these influencers, Instagram models, just everybody that they make these careers with essentially no education after high school, and they made it. They're millionaires. They make more money than I ever would going to college. That's great. And yeah, that is a possibility. I'm not saying it's not. However, number one, super rare, and it's very hard to build that audience, and usually takes forever. Number two, everyone's doing that now, and it's kind of becoming what happened a couple decades ago, where everyone was like, ooh, I want to make money, I gotta go to university, I gotta get a degree, and everyone starts doing it all at once. then the market's saturated. Then it's going to turn again and say, hey, we need to go to school because everyone, it's so saturated. I can't make it doing that. And what happens when you fail? We are so new in that industry, that kind of do-it-yourself type industry. Let's go with streamers, let's say. What do you do when you're done? Or what do you do when the next thing comes up? And then whatever your platform is or whatever you're doing is kind of obsolete or people don't care about it. Because nowadays, people's attention spans are so low. You look at music, people listen to a song for 2 weeks and then you forget about the artist altogether. So I think you see that, and it's going to be interesting because you're going to see these people going that route because they think they beat the system when really they didn't. And then they're going to, what resume do you have? You're going to go into a job and they're going to be like, well, what experience do you have? And what are you going to list? All that? Look how many views I have. I mean, it's tough.
I mean, it's an interesting dichotomy between the traditional education system of, just reading books and doing tests and stuff, and as opposed to the non-traditional where it is kind of more of a technology based. I mean, Pat, did you find that, did you have the same struggles that we did kind of, or same gripes that we're doing it back in college? What was your experience like kind of looking back on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys are just mentioning it to it, but thinking back to the 4-year degree, getting out of college, having a 4-year degree, having tens of thousands of dollars in debt, and then having an entry-level salary of $34,000, and trying to live on your own now, trying to pay rent and buy groceries and pay for your gas and all those daily living expenses. It's almost near impossible, and that was the biggest struggle for me coming out of college. And I feel like the 4-year degree now, it's like Aaron said, it's so saturated. Everyone has one.
Right.
So it's the value of it.
Degree addiction, so to speak.
Exactly.
And now everyone's going to have a master's. So in a couple of years, everyone's going to have a master's.
And then what does a master's?
It just never ends. Yeah.
Did you find maybe that college kind of prepped you for life pretty well in terms of like the life skills, like doing your taxes or mortgages or financial budgeting, or Pat?
No, unfortunately, it did not. I'm learning things day to day still as a 27-year-old adult that I probably should have known or probably should have learned long ago in college or in high school. Taxes, keeping up with your house expenses. All those little things that are a big deal, and you go into life, after college, not knowing basic life skills, and you have all this information in your head about rock formations and all this.
As a business major,
but you know the quadratic formula, though, right, Pat? Like,
right.
You know that. Exactly.
Exactly. So I feel like the content of the courses are not directed at daily living as for today's world.
So do you think it's worth it going to a 4-year university though?
I think going to a college after high school is worth it if that's a 2-year associate's degree or a tech degree, or if you really have your mindset on a 4-year degree and it's going to be worth it for you and you're going to enjoy that career path. I think it is, but I don't know if it's worth it for everyone. I think there's a lot of different majors or a lot of different careers you can take that don't have that 4-year degree or 2-year degree that might fit you in the lifestyle you want,
Yeah. And it's tough to do because like you don't know until you get into it, until you go through with it for the first year or two. And I'm not saying, you're wasting your time by going into college. Like I'm all for going into a university. Like the time that I spent there at SLU was awesome. And SLU's a great university, and there's a lot of great universities in the country. We're just talking specifically about kind of the inherent flaws to be found within the education system itself. And the social aspect that you get from it, the experiences that you share, the relationships and everything, kind of more of those life skills. You do learn a lot when you go to college as well. Like you learn how to be away from home. You learn how to, interact with others, so to speak. So there are kind of those things that you pick up on. So, but
do you think it's worth it?
I think
a 4-year university.
I think it's worth it to have those experiences, and it's the work ethic that you get from it. If you go to a university that instills work ethic and kind of that mentality, like SLU did, they were very much into, okay, it's more than just academics. It's about the community. It's about everybody else. It's not just about yourself. So if you can surround yourself with a community like that, a university, or even people, then I think the academics come as a secondary byproduct of it. Because you're going to want to better yourself. You're going to want to be able to push yourself further. And you do that by, okay, I see how my friends are doing, or I see how this community is bettering themselves. I want to better myself. I can do that by doing well in school, and then bettering myself after school, contributing back to society.
Yeah. One thing, especially for me, going into sales and having zero sales experience, really, and I said this in my interviews, and I really believe it. I mean, college and my internships too, but college just in general did teach me, at least, to sell. Because I had to sell my personality to people.
Yeah, I had personal branding.
Yeah, and I went to a school where I didn't know a single person, and I had only been in St. Louis one time in my life, so I was learning all this new stuff at once. So I will say, in my opinion, it's completely worth it just for that alone. I mean, I think there's issues with the classes that they need to deal with, but I do, for the people that say, yeah, you don't need to go to college, I think pretty much every single person should at least try it. If you're really struggling, or it's just not for you, or the money wise, I think sure that I get that. But if you're going to better yourself just in general, I think a 4-year university is perfect, because if you're going to an associate's, getting your associate's degree, usually you're going back, like I said, you're commuting, you're going back home, you're hanging with your high school friends, because you're usually in a local setting. And I just think a 4-year university, even if you go locally, even if you go 5 minutes away from your house, you're away. You are broken away from your parents.
Yeah, you're
hopefully
free. So
you have to, and you're on your own. You have to figure it out. You have to meet people. You can try new things. I mean, the things I did in college, all the clubs I was in, the internships, and not even just work. Hey, this is preparing me for my job, but what's prepared me for life, from whether it's a social aspect and how do I meet this person, or how do I interact with a person who their background is completely different from mine. I have friends now, Will and I have friends that are immigrants, that came over from other countries. And it's incredible to me,
it
because
does broaden your scope of, different ethnicities and different people.
And you have to figure out, okay, how do I relate to this person, and figure that out. Whereas to me, and I'm not saying you can't, I just think it's harder if you don't put yourself in that position, and you just, hey, I'm going to go, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but if you just go to your trade school or whatever and then go home and that's it, you're missing out on that big chunk that could really help you in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
I want to shift the conversation more towards kind of within university itself. So like a lot of the times, you're going through, you're in your senior year. I remember going through my senior year, I barely found an internship there. I don't think there was a lot of support by a lot of universities to help find internships, or to help find work post-grad. I had no help from my university, and this isn't slandering SLU or any university, so to speak. It's just generally from my own experience and everything, that there wasn't a lot of support given to a lot of students after graduation in finding a job.
Well, they don't tell you how hard the I guess setting after college is like. They don't tell you what to expect, how truly hard it is to find a job, how saturated the market is. They don't give you that. Right. And they also, talking about internships, like you brought up, I mean, they don't even really tell you how important it is. I think they made us get one internship.
Yeah. So sometimes you can get an internship for college credit. So that takes the place of a class. But the ability to, it would have been nice to have an interviewing class to tell us or give us tips on proper etiquette for interviewing. What
you
to
have
say.
To go do that on your own.
Right.
They have career services, so they give you the tools in that way. But it's kind of like, well, go figure it out. And I knew a lot of people. For me, I had talked to people in the sports industry and found out, okay, it's really hard to break in. I need to do everything I can.
Yeah.
But I think for a lot of kids, especially, even you're 22, you don't know that much, so you're just kind of, again, you're guessing, and you don't really get a sense of how important an internship is and how important it is to get a good internship, not just anything.
Yeah. Pat, did you have an internship in college?
I did. It was not required. But I did find one. It was a great fit for me. It was a nonprofit organization. My last semester of college, I actually did take it for credit. However, I had to do all the finding on my own. We had a school job board where they posted, entry level jobs and internships. The problem with that is all the students were applying to those, 10, 12, 15 jobs. So they had, 100 resumes for one position. So it was really tough to get those jobs. So you end up finding all those jobs and internships on your own. But yeah, it was a great experience. An internship was great to get yourself into the real world. And I think I learned, a lot more skills in those couple months on my internship than I did in a lot of my classes. Great.
Don't you think they could have made, just like I said, just one class where they put those skills you learned into your internship into a class? I mean, don't you think that would be easy to do?
Absolutely.
I took a capstone class my senior year, and I think that was probably a really helpful class because it literally simulated what was going to happen in a business 5-10 years down the road. So it was a great class. It was a team-oriented project as well. So one, you're helping and you're communicating with your teammates, you're working well with others. Two, you're actually applying what you learned from, the class into real life. And a lot of the times you found, the in the textbook doesn't always translate, actually never really translates into a real world
pay that
setting.
$600 for it.
Right. But I wanted to touch upon the kind of the application process. Pat, you mentioned that it was kind of all on your own to find it, and there was hundreds of people applying for these jobs. What I've found is that a lot of these jobs with so much competition is that they're kind of inflating the level of credentials needed to get the job. So off of the hundreds and hundreds of jobs that I've applied for after college, I found that, entry-level jobs, they're requiring 4 to 5 levels of experience. And so it doesn't really aid the fact of helping these post-grad students find these jobs when they're requiring experience that they don't have. It's kind of vicious cycle where you have to get a job to get experience, and you need experience to get a job, and you're spinning your wheels.
Well, it's not even realistic, too. I mean, some of the applications they have, the requirements, quote unquote, they'll have these really specific requirements on there, and it's like, okay, I would have to know 3 years ago that I was going to do this exact job. Otherwise, how was I supposed to apply for that? Especially coming out of college. I mean, how am I supposed to know that I need this certification or this skill or this proficiency in this program at 18?
Yeah.
I mean, that's incredible. Like we said at the beginning, you might not even know what major you'll have.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a criminal justice major, Will. And then switch to business. So, I mean, what happens when you get out and you've only really done, like a business major for 3 years? And then they're like, oh, you need 4 years of this, or even a year. You haven't worked, and sometimes these jobs won't even count internships. I've been on that in an interview where they asked me, and I used my internship, and they said, well, we said professional experience. That's not professional experience.
That's as close as you're going to get.
How am I supposed to do 16, 18 credits and be in clubs, which you want me to be well-rounded on my resume. You want me to be in clubs and activities and athletics and whatever. And then on top of that, get this work experience. Man, I barely have time to work at a Pickleman's, it's incredible.
And you want to be able to enjoy yourself, and you want to be able to have some sort of a college life too. So it's pick and choose between, okay, I want to go all in and secure my future, or do I want to have a little bit of fun and have a great college experience, And then if you go too hard into one or the other, you feel like, okay, it really wasn't worth it because I didn't get the full 9 yards, so to speak. And it's a difficult catch-22 that you're in, because there's so much emphasis being, got to get good grades, got to get a bachelor's degree, got to get a master's degree, and there's a huge correlation of going to university, going to college to get a good job. So now it's tough because what do you do? How do you break a 100-year-long traditional 4-year university, get in, you learn these subjects where really we've talked about, they don't prep you for life. Like there's no classes on how to do your 401k, how to invest in the stock market, how to do your taxes. I can't tell you how many times I have struggled over doing my taxes. I'm like, I have no idea how to do this. I was never taught this. I'm probably going to go to jail now or something for doing it wrong. Wesley's going to show up and just like, oh, you didn't do your taxes right, sir. We're escorting you off now to prison or something.
College didn't teach me.
Yeah, college didn't teach me. Like, I don't know. Or how to like do a home loan or a mortgage or buy a car.
I don't even know how to do that anymore.
Even like a home economics course would have been nice to like, learn how to cook or, learn what to expect.
It's funny, Pat and I went to the same middle school. They taught us like that kind of stuff, like the cooking and stuff in middle school.
Did you know those classes are being cut now from middle schools because they're deemed as non-necessary?
Yeah.
When like home ec or even like how like there's the class where like they teach you how to take care of a baby or whatever.
Yeah, it's home ec. Yeah. At least in ours.
They cut those classes when those are hugely important in interpersonal dynamics and like in family.
I think too, at least do it like, and move them up. Like I get it, middle school, people have their views on why they should do it then, but I think it would be more applicable to do it in college, and make that just, like I said, just one of the generals, because you're eventually going to get to this point, or should get, probably going to get to that point, and at least home owning or something like that. But I could tell you, like I went into Charles Schwab the other day, and I felt like a biggest idiot because I was like, hey, I don't know the difference between a Roth IRA and a traditional IRA.
And I think you're only going to learn that in business school, like very generally touched upon, unless you're taking like finance course or you're getting more of kind of that hardcore area.
Which is ridiculous.
Like, you weren't a business major, you were a communications major. So like, where would you have exposure to that when you're 18 to 22?
That's what's just incredible to me. It's like, so we all had to take college algebra or like a math class, using that as an example, or a language or whatever. Not that those are stupid, not that that's like bad to take, but I mean, come on, one class to teach us just the very basics, the 101, like that, or taxes, like you said. I mean, things that we will have to do eventually.
And it doesn't have to be multiple classes for each of these subjects. You can touch upon them in one class and literally call it life class. Literally like life skills 101.
How to actually live on your own.
And 1 week you go over your 401k. 1 week you go over, what to expect after post-grad, how to get a job, interviewing, all that kind of stuff that we talked about. You can tackle it all in one course.
Well, and maybe go
from there.
Maybe do it once a year. Your do a freshman level course where, I don't know, maybe like more, hey, this is right out of college, post-grad, this is what you should do. Sophomore level, all right, and just kind of advance them each year, but that way you're reminded, and that way it's not in one year out the other where it's like, oh yeah, I took that freshman year, but I don't remember. It was a long time ago. I mean, my senior year, I didn't remember my freshman year classes.
Oh, no way.
It's so much information. So I think, and then when you get to that last one, that senior year, do like a capstone where you're, okay, this is everything you've learned, and this is, okay, we're going to like simulate when you get out into the field, and
that was
the
best class I ever took, was that capstone.
But make there you go. But make the capstone the life class, and that way you've been reminded, you've been doing it, you're fresh with it, So I think that would be good.
Yeah.
But Pat, how do you think, going back to Will's first question there, how do you think we should change this? I mean, it's been going on for 100 years essentially.
Longer.
This tradition. So how do we kind of, I guess, change that and reverse that trend in a way?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and there's nothing that's a really an easy answer for it. What I think we're kind of alluding to it now is maybe kind of changing, the courses you take through high school, college. Not having to take 16 different math classes over your high school career, but keeping home ec, keeping those daily skill classes, the taxes, the 401ks. I think this is trying to get that implemented into the high school curriculum and even into college, interviewing. And I remember going into some of my interviews, going into, my first entry level jobs, and you'd have to have 3 years of experience. I'm like, well, how am I supposed to have 3 years of experience when I'm just graduating college? So I really had to sell myself and everything else to make up for that 3 lost years of experience that they hope for. So
yeah, it's like demoralizing. You apply for a job and you're like, well, you kind of go down on the checklist of I got this.
Yeah.
Okay, my chances are pretty good. This is a realistic job I can get. That is so demoralizing when you go down that list and say, ooh, I don't have proficiency at this. I haven't done this. I don't have enough of this. And you start checking off those boxes, and then I went through it, and Will, I'm sure you did.
Mm-hmm.
Pat, I'm sure you did too.
Hundreds of times, yeah.
Absolutely.
Millions of kids are going through it where it's, okay, then what can I do? And I think you're seeing kids, they get out of school, and I've seen this with my friends too. They'll get out of school and they're like, well, I can't do anything.
Yeah.
And they wind up taking like job at Starbucks or something because they're like, well, I'm kind of lost. I don't know what I can do or what I'm capable of. Then their confidence goes down. Then they eventually get to a point they're like, yeah, I'm just never going to do it. And they don't, it's setting them up for failure almost.
Yeah. And how many times have you found that, you find a job that's not related to your major at all after college? There's so many times. Yeah, me too. Like
Pat?
I was in sports. I found out that, there was better opportunities otherwise after that. But, there's a lot of times where you go in and you're an ethics major or a philosophy major. And unless you're going into the academic environment and being a teacher or being like a writer or something after that, you're really not going to use that degree in a real world setting, like on a day to day. So it's very specified. And I think they should tell you like what to expect, like at the beginning. Like if you're going to be a philosophy major, you need to go in academics and be a teacher as well.
Right. Put a list in front of the kids. I think syllabus week. Give them a list and say, hey, these are, because you could do this very easily and say, these are realistically the jobs you're going to get. And then maybe that first week, teach them, okay, this is what the top 5 jobs that you'll get, narrow it down and say, this is what you're going to do on a day-to-day basis. Because I remember my big thing going into the working world, I hate saying real world because I think we're all in the real world,
Right.
So the working world, I think if you explain, okay, day to day, this is what you'll do. Because going into the jobs I went into, I would always ask that, what's day to day? Because I really didn't even with education, even after an internship, I still didn't really understand what am I going to do day to day. So I think having those questions answered, and then you're going to get kids saying, nope, not for me, rather than they're in their junior year and they're like, oh, shoot, I don't like this. I can't change my major anymore. Because there's a point you can't switch your major.
Then you get
and then they're just like, they start over again, or they're just like, well, I guess I'll just finish this. And then they get out of college with either a degree that they know they don't want to do, or a degree that is history or like sociology or interdisciplinary studies. These degrees that you really are limiting yourself, and you're like, what am I going to do with that?
Right. So, Aaron, what's your big change then? Is it kind of more based on what we've spoken about?
Yeah, it's totally that. I mean, like I said, I'm a huge advocate for the university system. I'm all for 4 years of college. I had an amazing time. I met Will at college. So
well, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, buddy. There you go.
Yeah.
But, so there's that. I was in a fraternity. I was a mascot. I had an internship. I got to intern with my favorite team, St. Louis Cardinals. Never thought I'd ever do that. I had other internships outside of sports that taught me a lot. I worked in anti-piracy for movies for a little bit.
So you touched upon a lot of
I've met, like I said, I met people from all over the world and became best friends with people from all over the world, girls and guys, just everybody, and so the things it taught me were incredible. So I would not take that away. I think that the part of going to school in that tradition is great. And I think I would highly recommend it to anybody. I'm not going to sit here and say it is for 100% of people in the world, but I think it's worth a try. So I think the couple things that should happen is, number one, starts with high school, change that, get kids more on a clear path rather than following that traditional, take these classes just because that's the classes we take. We take math and English and history and then science, and that's it. I think change that and make it a little more for, because kids who want to be go be mechanics, they can do those classes in high school in some high schools, and I think that's great. And that's awesome. That's a good program. It puts them on that path. So do that for pretty much everything. And I know, maybe you're 16, 17, you're going to choose something and you might not do it. But I think make it easier for that transition to happen and set them up for that success of, okay, this is what I want to do. And then that way they are more ready for the working world, and they can start that job on day one after college and have a sense of, this is what I do on a day-to-day basis. This is what I should learn and keep aspiring to learn and really focus. Also, I think too, my last point on it is stop with these 300 student lecture halls. I think that is a terrible, and I will give this up to SLU that they were awesome at this. I mean, our general class has like 40 people.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I had interactions with my professors. I could network. I could learn better. And if I had a question or needed to talk even more, I had access to them. So I think start, and I know it's hard to do if you have 50,000 students at a school, but do that and try to at least just lessen the class sizes, and then also have the professors deal more with, hey, I'm teaching you this because this is going to lead to this career. This is what it's like when I was in the field. This is why I'm doing it. Because I think too often you see these professors, they go in and they just, I'm teaching it because this is what's on our curriculum and this is what I have to teach. And you don't see
You're
that.
just kind of a face in the crowd then after
that.
Like,
I mean, heck, I did have professors when I was in a lecture hall setting. They had no clue who I was. They didn't know if I showed up to class or not. No idea.
Yeah.
And they didn't care. They didn't care, if I learned it or not, because, well, just take the class and in and out. And it's like, that isn't preparing me for anything. So I think that's a huge thing that they need to fix.
I agree with you. It's more of kind of a specified direction of what to expect with your career path, what to expect with kind of within the major itself. I'm all for shaking up the status quo with it, though. So instead of, obviously you have to have your professors to guide the conversations in the classes, but I'd like to see in a test where some of the students maybe run the class, because you're based upon, you're graded upon in your job, how to communicate with others, how to work as a team, how to effectively, execute that message. So have the professor in the beginning be like, okay, everybody pick a specified topic within this general topic. And then basically the entire semester, they do research on that topic and they present. They come up with assignments, each class for each of the other students to do. So one, they're able to work with that team. They're able to show initiative to their boss and say, okay, this is what I'm doing. These are the projects that I'm working on. And three, they're communicating and executing that message. And they're also, people are still learning about it. And obviously the professor will jump in and say, okay, this is where we're going to guide the conversation to this way, or set certain limits and everything, and kind of give more of an in-depth conversation about it.
Well, think of how applicable that could be. I mean, Pat, you're a project manager.
Right.
So that's project management right there. If you're going to be a teacher, that's definitely teaching. That's structure. If you're going to be any form of management at all in any profession, that's management. Those are things that you're going to be learning firsthand. I mean, that's kind of what you learn in an internship. So I think that kind of gets rid of just learning it in the internship format, and you're learning it right in the classroom and right from the source.
And it totally eliminates the struggle of, okay, well, I have to learn algebra, or I have to learn, the rock formations, like Pat said earlier. That's not applicable unless you're a geology major or unless you're a mathematics major. If you're a communications or business or even nursing or whatever it is, you're able to learn about these topics. You're being taught life skills, and you're able to execute in a professional environment. But,
and going back to why are you teaching this? Why are you learning that? I mean, I think that's the thing. If you can have a quality answer of why are we learning rock formations when I'm a business major, I mean, then that's great. And if you can show it applies, but I think that's what is not happening is they're not showing of why are we doing this subject? Why do I need I'm not saying it's not important, but why do I need an arts credit? They don't really explain that to you. A counselor doesn't really tell you. They're just like, these are the classes you have to take and just go take them. And go, and the thing too is go take whatever fulfills this credit. They don't really work with you on, hey, okay, you're going into this industry, at least in my experience, they don't say you're going into this industry, so take this arts class because this applies a little more than this arts class. They literally looked at me and said, pick 2 arts classes. Yeah. And one of the instances, I went on the website to sign up. I picked it was in alphabetical order, picked the first one. Just wanted to get it done.
Yeah, I think
I had no thought in it and no one directed me. So I'm like, screw it, I'll just pick that one.
There's a huge disconnect between what's interesting and what's actually useful, and what you're able to apply towards the real life.
Yeah, so, Pat, did you have? I mean, what was your? I guess River Falls. I know that's a smaller school. What were your class structures like? Did you have those huge lecture halls? Or?
We had a combination of both. It was more personal. Like you said, due to the size of the school, a lot of the class sizes were 30, 40, 50 kids, but we did have a couple of lecture halls that were, we could fit 100 and 150 people in there. I'd say the majority of our classes were, especially when you get closer to in your business classes or your specified major, when the class sizes get smaller, it was, that 25, 30, 35 kids per class, which was nice. And you mentioned too earlier, you just get that, that one-on-one time with the teacher, and you're so much more engaged, and it was a really good experience.
Yeah, I wish more universities had that kind of one-on-one experience, or kind of less than a face in the crowd and more of a, okay, you actually mean something, you're here, I know your name, let's work together to accomplish this problem, as opposed to,
right,
exactly, figure it out on your own. But I think we've covered a lot of great stuff here, Aaron and Pat. I think we've shaken up the status quo with a lot of things, talking about some things that maybe not a lot of people have really touched upon. But it's been a joy to have you on, Pat. Thanks for joining us here.
So number 2.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. This is the second episode with Pat. So
you're a friend of the podcast.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. Welcome back at any time.
I appreciate it, and anytime you need me, I'm more than happy to jump on.
Absolutely. You guys can check us out on Twitter at Weekendology Pod. We're on YouTube. Just search Weekendology Podcast. Same with Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. Just search Weekendology Podcast. You can find me at my Twitter handle. It's William Deichley. Aaron, where can they find you?
On Twitter at Aaron Levi Berg, AARON LEVIBURG. Hit us up. Let us know what you think, your thoughts. We want to hear your opinions after the episodes.
Yeah.
We want to get some debate going. So hit me on slide in my DMs, or you can definitely hit that 5 stars and subscribe and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, definitely. We want to hear your conversations, so leave them in the comments below on YouTube or wherever it is that you're listening from. Give us a subscribe, give us a like. We really appreciate it. And looking forward to the next episode. So weekend's almost here, guys. Stay tuned, and we'll be back next week.